The air in Manila was heavy with the scent of roasted corn and exhaust fumes, a mix of survival and struggle. His name was Miguel Santos, only 13 years old, but his voice carried the weight of a lifetime. Every note he sang seemed to cut through the noise of jeepneys honking and vendors shouting. Some pedestrians slowed down, curious about the small boy with big eyes and a cracked smile. A few tossed coins into the dented tin can at his feet, the sound of metal against metal echoing louder than their footsteps. Yet most kept walking, too busy, too burdened, to notice the gift unfolding before them. Beside him, his mother Rosa watched silently, her hands busy arranging plastic containers of rice and vegetables she hoped to sell before nightfall. She smiled faintly whenever Miguel's voice drew a small crowd, but her eyes carried the shadow of a question she never asked: would this life ever change for him? Miguel sang not just to earn money but to escape. Each lyric was a window to a dream where he wasn't a street boy in torn clothes, but a singer on a stage, where lights replaced street lamps and applause replaced the constant hum of traffic. He didn't sing to impress. He sang to survive, and more than that, to be heard. And in the middle of his song, when his voice cracked but didn't break, the question hung in the air like an unspoken prayer. What if the world overlooked the very talent that could heal its soul? That night, when the coins were counted, they barely made enough for dinner. Yet Rosa kissed her son's forehead and whispered gratitude to the heavens. Because for her, Miguel's voice was not just a song, it was hope itself. The streets didn't know it yet. The passers-by didn't realize it. But hidden within the noise of Manila was a story waiting to be heard. A journey from dust to destiny. And Miguel's first note was only the beginning. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Miguel's songs floated over the streets of Manila like fragile paper boats carried by the wind, seen by some, ignored by most. Yet one afternoon, fate decided to stop and listen. It was a humid Sunday when a small charity group walked past the corner where Miguel sang. They were handing out food packs to street children when Miguel's voice rose above the noise of the city. One of the volunteers, holding his phone, paused and turned back. The boy's voice was raw, unpolished, yet it carried something rearranged honesty that pierced through the chaos. Without thinking, the volunteer pressed record. The video lasted less than 2 minutes. Miguel never knew he was being filmed. He only closed his eyes and sang as he always did, heart first, with nothing but faith to guide his notes. That clip, so simple and unplanned, traveled faster than Miguel's wildest dreams. Uploaded online, it spread across social media like wildfire, reaching people far beyond the crowded streets of Manila. Within days, messages flooded in. Strangers across the world shared the video, calling him the boy with the voice of gold. And then, one evening, as Rosa returned from selling food, she found Miguel staring at a letter in disbelief. An invitation, stamped and sealed, sat trembling in his small hands. It was from America's Got Talent. The words felt unreal: a flight to the United States, an audition in front of millions, a chance to step out of the shadows of Manila and onto a stage where dreams were born. Rosa's heart swelled with fear and pride. She worried about leaving everything behind: the streets, her small store, the fragile balance of survival. But when she looked at Miguel, she saw more than a boy. She saw destiny tugging at his sleeve. Miguel held the letter to his chest, his eyes glistening. For the first time, he wasn't just singing to survive. He was singing for a future he could almost touch. The world had finally stopped to listen, and now it was calling him forward. The plane ride felt like a dream Miguel could not wake from. One day he was singing barefoot in Manila, and the next he was standing before the towering glass doors of a studio in America. The AGT stage loomed larger than anything he had ever imagined: bright spotlights, massive screens, and an audience that stretched farther than his eyes could follow. Backstage, Miguel clutched his mother Rosa's hand so tightly his knuckles turned white. His small figure looked even smaller against the gleaming corridors, where other performers rehearsed with polished costumes and perfect confidence. Miguel wore a simple shirt and jeans. No sequins, no glitter, only his voice. Rosa brushed his hair back and whispered courage without words, her trembling smile hiding the storm inside her heart. When Miguel's name was called, he walked toward the stage, his steps heavy, his heart racing. The curtains opened, and suddenly, he was swallowed by the blinding glow of the lights. The roar of the crowd hit him like a wave, both terrifying and electrifying. The judges watched him carefully. Simon Hale leaned back in his chair, skeptical. To them he was just another boy with a dream, one of many who had crossed that stage. Miguel's hands shook as he gripped the microphone, his small chest rising and falling like a drumbeat of fear. For a moment the silence was unbearable. Then he closed his eyes. The first note slipped from his lips, fragile but true. The whole shifted instantly. What began as a soft thread of sound swelled into a powerful river of emotion, carrying the story of every hardship he had endured. His voice soared above the vast auditorium, trembling with honesty. The audience grew still. A mother in the crowd wiped away tears. Even the toughest judge leaned forward, his brows furrowed, caught off guard by the depth of a voice so young. Miguel was no longer a boy from the streets. Under those lights he became something greater, an echo of resilience, a reminder of beauty born from struggle. And though his song was not yet finished, hearts in that room already knew this moment was unforgettable. The song reached its final verse, Miguel's voice trembling yet unbroken. Each word seemed to rise above him, filling the massive auditorium with a rawness that silenced even the restless. The room that once looked intimidating now felt like a sanctuary where his pain and hope lived together in every note. The audience rose slowly to their feet. A hush fell then. As Miguel poured out the last stretch of his voice, the silence shattered into thunderous applause. People clapped, cheered, and some even sobbed openly. Miguel, still clutching the microphone, opened his eyes in disbelief. He had not imagined applause like this. Not here, not ever. At the judges' table, the stern expression of Simon Hale had softened. His eyes glistened, his usual coolness undone by the boy who had sung not with perfection, but with soul. One by one, the judges exchanged looks. They had witnessed many performances, but this was different. This was not about music alone, it was about survival, about spirit. Then, something extraordinary happened. Simon stood, his chair pushing back, his hand hovering above the button that could change a life forever. The crowd erupted, sensing what was about to unfold. Miguel froze, unsure, his chest rising and falling like a trapped bird. And then, the golden buzzer lit up in an instant. A shower of golden confetti burst from above, cascading over the stage like rain from heaven. The audience roared louder, standing, clapping, crying. Miguel's knees buckled, overwhelmed, as glittering flakes landed on his face and hair. He reached out his small hands, as though trying to catch pieces of a dream falling into reality. Backstage, Rosa covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. For years, she had watched her son sing to strangers who barely noticed him. Now she watched the world rise to its feet for him. Miguel dropped to his knees, crying softly, clutching the microphone against his chest. This was no longer just a performance, it was the breaking open of a destiny. The streets of Manila seemed so far away now. In that golden rain, Miguel Santos had been seen, heard, and forever remembered. When the last flecks of golden confetti settled on the stage, Miguel remained kneeling, breathless, his small frame shaking with disbelief. For a boy who once sang for coins under flickering streetlights, the sound of a standing ovation felt like a miracle too big to hold. He pressed his palms together, his tears shining under the stage lights, as if offering the moment back to the heavens that had carried him this far.